Hey everyone, today we're going to be looking at the best champions in 9.15 for each role. We're going to do it a little bit differently though and have a kind of top tier, like champions that are in the top tier, and then we'll take 4 of those and go into them a little bit more. The champions will be listed down in the description as well, and please let me know what you think about doing it this way. It's kind of including more detail, I guess, without making it really long. We're going to start with AD carry, and for our top tier champions, we've got Jinx, Sivir, Caitlyn, Kai'Sa, Ezreal, Jhin, Draven, and Xayah. There aren't actually that many AD carries, so this is a good chunk of them, but these are kind of a cut above the rest. There are quite a big mix in here. Some of them are really good in the lane phase, but one thing they're all pretty good at is they all spike around 2 items at least, so they can kind of compete in these early fights. The best 2 here, in my opinion, would be Ezreal and Kai'Sa, and we're going to kind of lump them together in the top spot. They're the 2 best because they're very safe. They don't rely on their team very much at all. They can kind of look after themselves, and that is really why they're so good. Ezreal has his arcane shift to get away. He's got very high range because of his Q poke anyway. He's got the slow, he's got the armor stacking as well, so he can kite and he can still carry. Kai'Sa is going to be a bit different. She is short range, but she has a stealth. She has an ultimate to escape. She has very high damage, and she's very good 1v1, especially with the isolated Q damage. Basically, you can pick these 2 every single game, and you do really well with them because Riot is giving so much damage and mobility to so many different champions now. Sometimes surviving and survival is just more important, and these 2 are the best at doing that while still outputting a lot of damage and actually carrying the game. Moving on to our second spot, Jinx is a bit different because she isn't as safe, but she has high damage, and especially earlier into the game. Unfortunately, you don't have stealth, you don't have arcane shift either, but just a 1 item, your Infinity Edge, it gives you huge AoE crits and big chunks of damage from very far away because it is quite high range, like higher than a lot of other ADs. Once you get a reset as well in a team fight, it becomes like insane. You're better than any other AD at that single point because it's going to give you more kills, make it very easy to get more as well, and further ahead in the actual game. Like, you don't have to learn to kite or anything once you get that reset. Third spot we're going to give to Caitlyn. She's very safe, but she does more damage now as well after repeated buffs, so she can actually carry a bit better. You do kind of need 3 items to carry, not 2, so that is one of the downsides to Caitlyn, but with a strong support, you're going to be able to abuse your range, take place, and control the lane phase, and that is much easier to get to 3 items after that. It does depend a little bit on your support. If you don't have a strong one, then you can at least farm and stuff, which is still good, and then later, traps are really the difference maker. Your headshots are going to start to really hurt, traps are going to help that as well, and with a net and a range, it's very hard to shut her down. So last up, we're going to have an honorable mention, which we're going to look at Sivir. More of a team pick than the others here. Still very good, but not as lane dominant as before after her nerfs. Essence Reaver and Infinity Edge build together as your first 2 items makes her Q and her W crits hit so hard, which is going to let her carry at the 2 item point, which is really important. Your ultimate is able to change the game pretty much. You can set up plays, you can escape as well, and plus Sivir is really safe with a bounce range and a spell shield, so again, you're not vulnerable if someone dives on top of you. Next up, we're going to move into our mid lane picks. And so for our top tier, we're going to have Zed, Ahri, Akali, Yasuo, Katarina, Fizz, Talon, and Corki. You notice that most of these are assassins, and that is just kind of the meta that we're in at the moment. Kind of outplaying, win your lane phase, and then roam around the map. I think the best at doing that is still going to be Zed, so he's number 1. He can get ahead and then run away with the game probably better than most others can. I think he's one of the most versatile assassins because he has a lot of mobility, but when you hit that point where you can kill somebody without ult, that is when it really changes. Assassins are normally so reliant on their cooldowns to kill somebody. When you reach the point where you don't need your cooldowns to kill someone, that is when you can start killing like 2 or 3 people in a team fight instead of just the 1. Whether you split push or whether you catch people late game, you have more options now ever since those changes a while ago, and it's actually made him better like mid to late game. Next up, we're going to look at Corki, who's a bit boring, but just ultra safe. He's very hard to punish or to mess up with, and that is why he's used in pro play all the time. So he does better the higher you are at the moment, and that's pretty good because if you use him and you do climb, he's not going to become like redundant or anything like that. And that's mainly because his lane phase isn't the strongest, but he spikes around the items so well. So if you play lane phase well, if you have a good lane phase, and if you farm well and stuff, you get the items a bit quicker basically. You also have to base at good times. You have to use your packages to roam around the map, and that should be a free kill really whenever it's up. Our third spot is going to go to Akali today, slowly coming back after a major changes in 9.14 where they removed her true stealth and they changed the damage on her E around a bunch. There are other stuff as well, like her ultimate cooldown is a bit higher, but now she is really strong again and she can absolutely demolish in 1v1s, or if she finds an AD carry, they stand absolutely no chance. You can opt for an earlier death cap to carry a bit harder, we're seeing that a lot more, but her real strength is like mobility and outplaying with her kit. That is what separates her from everybody else. Fizz is also one of the better assassins right now. He's our honorable mention today. If he gets ahead, he can can steamroll harder than others and much easier than others. He's also extremely slippery for an assassin, not as easy to focus and just kill them quickly like with somebody else. With Zed, for example, you can lock them down with crowd control and kind of kill him, but with Fizz, you can't really do that. I said he was easier earlier, and all I meant by that was you really just have to hit your ultimate and you basically one-shot somebody. You're also more durable with the new passive blocking damage from all sources, not just basic attacks, and that's made him a lot better as well. So let's go into our jungle. For our top tier, we have Jarvan, Kha'Zix, Vi, Nunu, Kayn, Elise, Hecarim, and Lee Sin. The jungle is actually way more open than any other role. Like, there are a lot of others I could have included here as well. Stuff like Rengar, for example, and Evelynn are also really good. A lot of these junglers do revolve around early ganks or having like a really good late game. It kind of is like one or the other pretty much. Kha'Zix is a lot like that. He was buffed a little bit in 9.15. Surprisingly, it had a really big impact, but it was only 10 extra damage on his Q or 20 for an isolated target. He's played more now though. He's winning more as well, and Kha'Zix is insane once he gets to 2 items, and then he keeps on powering up throughout the game. Like, he is a late game assassin jungler. At that point into the game, when he can one-shot somebody, like, nowhere is going to be safe against a good Kha'Zix. He'll wait in a bush, stealth out, jump on top of you, you'll die, and he's constantly going to look for targets to jump on and delete. Our second spot is our safest and most reliable jungler to play, which is Jarvan. He's kind of the opposite of Kha'Zix, where he's really good early game. Your ganks are so good, amazing at camping a lane like repeatedly once their flash is down, and he has good damage himself, but he can also build like kind of an off tank or damage. The attack speed from his flag is actually super useful for objectives, towers, getting extra assists as well, some more gold in team fights, and then later he can actually engage even if he can't kill somebody. For our third spot, I kind of want to focus on Vi because she's the middle ground between both of those who we've talked about, but with better ganks at level 6. Like, every time that's off cooldown, you just go into a lane and you gank with your ult. If you get Trinity Force, you're going to start to nuke everybody as long as you hit your Q, and with Sterix, that's even better. So basically, her mid game is just insanely strong. The good side as well is that even though you're building damage, Warrior, Trinity, Sterix as well, you're still tanky with the damage because of Aftershock. So you dive in, but you won't die, and pretty much you remove somebody straight away. So you're able to go in and be engaged, but also kind of be your own follow-up. Last up, we're going to look at Elise, and she's not used as much as in Korea, but she is the queen of ganking. She is so good early game. Absolute monster early. Probably like the best early jungler we actually have, and will ruin a laner's day and make them wish they really didn't queue up in the first place. Elise has good damage herself, so she doesn't really need a ton of follow-up anyway. She has a one-shot combo, especially with just a few damage items, but she's insane at diving towers even early with repel. That is what really makes her different from other junglers. She can go into that tower, nuke them down, and then repel to escape after. Let's go into our top lane, and for our top tier, we have Aatrox, Darius, Riven, Renekton, Kled, Irelia, Mordekaiser, and Alawi. Our first spot is going to go to Darius, and North America are still absolutely obsessed with him at the moment, but he's just so good in the lane phase. There is a chance that he just gets so far ahead, and none of the others in this top tier can even play the game, and that is really why he's number 1. He's definitely the strongest and the most consistent when it comes to solo queue and climbing to diamond especially. There's a very clear, like, just get fed, win your lane, 1v2, and win the game. For our number 2 spot, I think we have to talk about Aatrox. Most people thought they would get a lot worse with no revive, but his damage and his healing are still insane, and I see him all the time. The speed on his ultimate actually makes it really hard to cut him, especially with his added mobility. So once he dives into a fight, he's actually really good at shutting an AD carry down or chasing people down in general. I don't think he's that good until Death's Dance, but then he takes off, and especially after Sterix as well, he'll be an absolute monster. It's very hard to kill him, but his damage is so high. Our third spot is going to go to Riven. I think she probably will get nerfed eventually because she's really strong on a good player. She scales very well, but like a good one can get her early normally as well and kind of start the snowball earlier than usual. Even if they don't, it just seems to like pull it out of thin air and just manage to have like a monster play in a team fight with flash and completely turn it on its head anyway. After a couple of items, Riven is going to be a threat. Like, she is pretty strong as a champion anyway. She has very strong items that she builds, a strong keystone as well with Conqueror, and it means that everything together, it just makes a really strong champion. Last up for our top laners, we're going to look at Kled. So there's lots of healing top lane. If you have a look at our top tier, right, if you go back and have a look at it, everybody in the top tier heals in some way or another. The thing is, like, Kled is a counter to that now. He has the hidden reduction on his tether. It's 60%. It's so high as well, but he's also just really good versus bruisers he can brawl with and use his mount system to abuse. He is so good in the late phase. He's one of the best early game champions that we have in the top lane at the moment, and then he has his ultimate to roam down to other lanes, which is also how he really wins games after that. Last up, we're going to look at our supports today. So for our top tier, we're going to have Thresh, Pyke, Janna, Soraka, Yuumi, Nami, Rakan, and Nautilus. There are a couple in there that maybe you didn't expect, but in general, most of them are going to be kill lanes, or they're going to be ways to protect against those kill lanes instead. And number 1 is one of the aggressive ones. So Pyke has the potential to carry the game more than any other support in my opinion. You can win the lane phase and then keep doing work in team fights with the reset. It isn't quite the same, but it's almost like the enemy team having 500 less health per person. You only need to get them to that execute threshold and then they're going to be removed from the fight. We all know Pyke is hyper aggressive and can set up a lot of plays and is really dangerous in the lane phase, but the extra gold he now gets as well from his ultimate change makes it worse to die to him in the first place, and he ends up growing a huge lead. Janna is actually one of the few who can beat Pyke right now, so she's going to come in at number 2. She can disengage, shield, and heal a lot of the damage he puts out and kind of block him. She can also poke with her W max in lane phase, which I think is much better than maxing her E. It gives you way more threat. It's very hard to play against, and if the enemy support doesn't fight you back, you end up bullying the AD carry for free, and there's not really much they can do to stop it. The lane phase isn't really like her strong suit anyway. Her team fighting is so much better now that she can reduce her shield's cooldown with the slow or the knockups in her kit. It makes it much more difficult to kill anybody on her team at the start of fights, and that is really what makes Janna so good. For our third spot, we're going to look at our most reliable support to play, which is Thresh. So you can defend your team with your kit if you want to, or you can feed them with kills as well. You can do either, and actually you're pretty good at both. If you've got the stronger lane, you can throw hooks out. You can just wait for one to land. Even if you miss like 5, it doesn't really matter, and that's a summoner at least when it does land, or a kill, especially after level 6. If it's a bit of a hard lane, or you need to protect somebody, you can flay people away, you can box to slow them, you can lantern to help people escape. There's just something in his kit for every single situation. So I did say as well, we talk about Rakan. So he's an honorable mention, right? He's actually one of the best against Pyke, and he deserves a mention here, I think. He's not really like the best early game, but he has amazing lockdown. Your ultimate charm into knockup is more than enough time to delete whoever Rakan catches. Like Pyke, for example, can't use his mobility and he gets locked up, and that is one of his biggest weaknesses. And yes, Zyra is also strong as an AD carry right now, but that just makes him better in the lane phase, so you can like have a much better and stronger lane if you have Zyra Rakan. Outside of lane though, like Rakan doesn't need Zyra at all. He's actually one of the best engagers in the game, like even on his own. Those are going to be the best champions right now, I think, in the game in 9.15 for solo queue at least. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and let me know what you think about doing this a little bit differently, where I kind of focus on more champions per role. Thank you for watching until the very end. Like the video if you did, dislike it if you didn't, but for now I will leave you with robots.